Hey crafty friends, this is Kathya. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a DIY gilding wax or a DIY rub and buff if you're familiar with that. If you're not, stick around. I'm going to tell you what it is, how to use it, and how to make a version of your own that is much less expensive than what you can buy. Now, my first attempt to make this gilding wax or DIY rub and buff, I used a hair product, and believe it or not, it didn't work out as well as I had anticipated it would. It is still slightly tacky to the touch. It didn't blend as well as I wanted it to, so I'm not even going to share with you what I used because I just don't recommend it. It does not stick very well. It's tacky to the touch. It's not something I would recommend. So what I have here are a bunch of panels that I embossed with different embossing folders, and I will link the ones that I use down below in the description box if you're interested in purchasing one of those. I just chose different colors of cardstock so that I could show you all the different colors of the Arteza gilding wax that I'm going to use on a couple of these examples. So the first thing you're going to need is mica powder, and I bought these a couple of years ago from Arteza off of Amazon, and I absolutely love them, but I've never broken them out until this time. So I used a lot of these Arteza powders mica powders to make my DIY rub and buff or gilding wax. So let me show you an example of how super fine these powders are and just how shimmery and gorgeous. Look at that green. Is that not just beautiful? So at the time of this recording, I went onto Amazon to see if I could find the box of 35 mica powders that I'm using here in this video, and they don't sell that anymore to the best of my knowledge unless you go directly to their website, but they do have a box of 30, so I've linked that down below in the description in case you're interested. Now, in case you are looking to store some of this gilding wax that you make yourself, you can put them in these little tiny glass jars. I bought these at the Crafter's Square from Dollar Tree, and I think they are 5 to a package. I'm also using this palette knife, which is non-stick, and I love it because it's easy to clean. I'm using a palette here, a palette pad for painting, and that's also easy cleanup. I don't recommend using a glass mat. And I'm also going to be using these popsicle sticks that I also bought at Crafter's Square from Dollar Tree, and that's just basically going to help with the mica powder. So I'm going to mention this because I did do some research on YouTube and found that a lot of people are making their own gilding wax using shoe polish. Now, I am not going to be using that in this video because it smells horrible and I don't like it, and it's crunchy, and you have to be very careful with the amount of mica powder that you use to mix this. But if you do want to use this, this is an inexpensive alternative as well. You just want to make sure you pick up the neutral. What I did find that I thought was really brilliant is this Waverly Inspirations wax in clear. Now, it is water-based, it seals and protects, and it's non-toxic and virtually has zero smell. So I was super excited to try this. Now, this clear wax is typically used to protect your furniture when you do use chalk paint on it. So I'm not using it for that. I'm actually going to use it on our embossed folders, and I'm super excited to give this a try. Now, what you'll notice about this wax when I open the jar is it's sort of like in a partial liquid form, which I was surprised to find. But when I was at the store, I shook it and I was like, oh, this is liquid. I wonder if this would work. So I did try it, and I was pleasantly surprised by the results. So we're going to be using some mica powder, and I'm using the sapphire blue as my first example to show you. And let me tell you that a little bit of this mica powder goes a very long way, which is why I use those little tiny glass jars to put all the product in, because you don't really need that much at all. You can see there's quite a bit of powder in each one of these containers that you get from Arteza. And I'm putting just a little bit using a popsicle stick so I don't dip the popsicle stick into the Waverly clear wax. I don't want to contaminate the clear wax. But this powder is super fine, so you want to be making sure that you do not use this in an area where you have a fan on, because the powder will fly. So you'll see me throughout the video when I'm applying or adding the wax, the water-based wax to this. I'm going very gentle close to the powder, and I'm mixing it very, very slowly. You want to make sure you don't do it drops everywhere because the powder will fly. So the amount of mica powder to the wax that you use is entirely up to you. It's very forgiving, meaning that if you like a chunky wax or you like it to be thick like a paste, you can add more mica powder and less clear wax. If you like it the opposite, where it's really creamy, you can just add more of the clear-based wax. Now notice how slowly I'm going, and even as I'm going slowly, the wax and the mica powder are blending together nicely, but you can see that the powder just kind of flies off the paper, so you want to be very careful when you're mixing this together. If you're a little undecided as to whether or not this is going to be for you, I want to tell you that the 8-ounce jar that I'm using here in this video is a little over $11 on Amazon, and they also offer a 2 fluid ounce jar if you want, and that's a little under $3. I also wanted to tell you that if you don't have mica powders and you don't want to rush out and buy a whole box, you don't need to. If you have old eyeshadow that you plan on tossing, try crunching some of that up and mixing that with the liquid wax. That will give you beautiful results just as well. Probably just a little bit less shimmer if the eyeshadow that you're using does not have that shimmer quality in it. I also wanted to tell you that while you're looking on screen and you're like, well, that powder looks a little bit dull now, it does, but once this clear wax dries and you smear it on your embossed raised surfaces, the shine comes back beautifully and it is absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to show it to you. Now, as I said before, if you're not interested in storing this particular product, once you mix it up in batches, you don't need to. You can just use what you have and then toss once you're finished using it on your embossing folders. I decided to put mine in little jars so I could save them, and I also made little labels off screen so I know what color's what. Now we're going to do a color test. So this is that gorgeous, gorgeous blue, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like on black cardstock as well as white cardstock. So I'm just using a little bit of excess that's on my palette knife, and look, a little bit goes a very long way. And look at when I put this on that black cardstock, it almost looks like it's glowing, and I cannot capture it on screen really well, but this color is absolutely gorgeous on top of this black cardstock. Wait till you see it on an embossed folder. I mean an embossed card panel. Now here's what this gorgeous blue looks like on the white cardstock. And notice I'm taking just a very, very little amount, and look at a little goes such a long way. But when you rub this and you get it really into the fibers of the paper, it sits there, soaks into the paper, and it is absolutely stunning. So I have some embossed cardstock panels. The first two that I'm showing you in gray are just two-dimensional, and I'm not going to be using these, but I found this one here in my stash that I just recently ordered from Altenew, and I will have a description in the description box below. I'll tell you which folder that was because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But it is absolutely gorgeous. And see the amount of wax that I have on my finger. I'm tapping a little bit off because I don't want to oversaturate it. But when you take your finger and you rub all over the raised images, this gilding wax is absolutely stunning. Gives gorgeous shine and dimension and really kind of takes your embossing folder to the next level. So some people may be wondering, hey, can I use a brush to apply this gilding wax? You absolutely can. The reason I'm not doing it here is because I have so many colors made already and I don't want to have to wash my brush every single time. It's far easier to wash the tip of my finger than to do it that way. But of course, if you use a large brush, like a stencil type brush or something that's very soft, you could easily use that and get the same results. The bristles of your brush will actually go into the little nooks and crannies of the dimension that you have on your embossed folder. So bear that in mind, but this is so fun. So this next mica powder I'm using is called Crystal White, and I'm going to be applying this to an embossed folder that I have that's black, and wait till you see the results of that. It's absolutely beautiful, but this is a beautiful crystal white embossing powder, and look at all of that sparkle in the powder. It's gorgeous. And again, take your time, just don't move this powder around very quickly. Again, you only need a small amount. I don't know why I'm creating that little well in the middle. I thought maybe that would help with the powder flying everywhere, but it's really not that bad. And again, the ratio that you use for the wax to the mica powder is really not that important. It's basically what you like. The biggest issue is finding out if you want to store the excess of the mica powder, the gilding wax that you make, or if you just want to do a one-time. And if you're just doing this one time and you don't have a desire to store them in a container, you want to use almost like 1/3 the amount, or just like 1/3 of what I'm mixing up here, because like I said, a little goes a very long way. So for this particular color, I made a little bit of what I thought was a little too much to put into my container. But do you remember how I was telling you that this particular mixture of the mica powder to the clear wax is forgiving? It is, and this one is way more liquidy because I added more liquid wax to this particular mica powder, and the results are still the same. It's just a little bit smoother. You don't get as many clumps when you're rubbing this particular formula on your embossing folder card panel, so bear that in mind. If you are someone who likes texture to be really smooth and creamy, then add more wax. If you like it to be a little bit more chunky, that sort of thing, then add more mica powder. Okay, so here you go. This is the black cardstock that I'm using, and I'm using that crystal white color on this embossing folder, and I'm dabbing just a little bit of the excess off like I did on the last one, and now I'm smoothing it all over this embossing folder panel. And oh my gosh, look at the results of this. It's absolutely stunning. Take a look at this up close if I can show it to you. Here you go. But it's got this iridescent shimmer, and it's hard to capture on camera, but in real life it is absolutely sparkling and gorgeous. So off camera, I applied this particular color all over this embossed panel, and it turned out gorgeous. And I will show you my card example of it when I'm completely finished. So here are a look at the 3 cards that I made. This first one using the hair product with a product I won't mention because I didn't like the final results of it. It's not really good, and it's kind of tacky to the touch, not something I would want to use in my craft room. But it turned out pretty, so I did want to share it and I did want to keep it. And that bird on the front, if you ask, is from a mold. So the bird comes from a mold called the Prima Marketing Store, and it's from a redesigned mold called Aviary, and I used it on this one as well too. I used a product called paper clay, which dries super, super durable, but very, very lightweight. So here I am just kind of showing you an example of the wax clear with the mica powder that I used to do this embossing folder, and nothing comes off. It stays there. You don't need to seal it. You don't need to spray it with any fixative or anything like that because it stays on there. Now here is the final card I made using the black embossed folder with the florals and with that white mica powder wax that I made. And it turned out beautiful. And again, I'm rubbing my finger and nothing is coming off. It is completely sealed on there, soaked into the paper, and almost looks like metal. I absolutely love it. So these 2 cards with the birds on them, because they are bulky, would not be sent through the mail. I would actually hand deliver them. If you're interested in seeing how I made those, they are super easy and they're so impactful and make such a nice statement on a card if you want some dimension. And that is it for me for right now. If you're interested in the products that I use, again, they're linked in the description box below. If you're interested in seeing how I did the paper clay molds, please let me know in the comment section below. And which card was your favorite? That is it for me today, my friends. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like and like button for me. That really helps. And if you're interested in more crafty videos, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can find me on social media. And until the next video, ciao for now.